Hello.
So, hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm here today with a friend of mine, who I met on X, formerly known as Twitter. And basically, he is a original philosopher from Greece. So, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
And he's very wise, and he always gives me really good advice. His name is Socrates' son. He's a descendant of Socrates.
Yeah, not directly, not directly, indirectly.
Yeah, we
I
we
am
like
Greek.
I like to think
Yes.
so. As I've spoke about before in two of my videos, like leaving Islam and
Mm.
kind of leaving religion. Obviously I didn't enter into another religion. So yeah, so in my journey out of faith and sort of discovering new beliefs, I've been asking a lot of questions for a couple of years now. And as my friend Socrates is a philosopher, he's here today to actually explain how, as an atheist, he has found meaning and purpose in his life. Now, I personally don't find meaning in life as an atheist. I might
Mm.
explain why later, but so Socrates is going to, yeah, he's going to give us a bit of a rundown, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you take the floor.
So when it comes to this kind of questions, there is a distinction between whether atheists can justify something like morality, or whether an atheist can be moral, whether an atheist can have meaning in life. Most people agree with that. Even theists can say an atheist can have a meaning in life, but he cannot justify philosophically this meaning. Okay, so there is this kind of distinction that applies also to morality. For example, most theists understand the obvious that an atheist individual can be moral in his life and can have a meaningful life. But the real question is, an atheist as an ideology, can this worldview can justify meaning? So it's a more, so it's a, either you are asking about a philosophical question, whether atheism can justify meaning, or you are asking a more personal question, what is the meaning of your life, Socrates? So this is a distinction. So what are you asking exactly?
I'm I actually, for me, I see meaning in my own life
Yeah.
and meaning in the grander scheme of things are actually connected. I don't separate the two.
Mm.
I think that they actually go together. Do you want me to
Yeah.
explain why?
What you say is makes sense because the possibilities are not many. Okay, there are few. I personally believe, and then you can tell me what you believe.
Mhm.
I believe that we make our own meaning. In other words,
Wow.
meaning is we make our individual meaning. So I believe in a personalized kind of meaning. I don't believe in a kind of absolute meaning that we are we get uh, something. What's the right word? Um, yeah, some kind of absolute meaning. So I believe that we make our own meaning and purpose in life. Yeah,
Right.
and
But that what
yeah,
I was saying is that, see, so for me, my issue with that is that, now I respect everyone's beliefs, by the way. I'm not saying I'm right and he's wrong, or he's right and I'm wrong. We're just, look, from my point of view, I think everyone has valid reasons for believing what they do, but
yeah,
I don't think I have the final answer, if that makes sense. So just to clarify
yeah,
that. But in my opinion, in my experience, I cannot find meaning in life
mm,
just through my own kind of personal view. Like, if I just say I have to make my own meaning in life and there's no grand meaning, there's
mm.
no higher purpose, for me, it leads me down the path of nihilism, which
Oh,
for me is not
yeah,
healthy. Yeah, as day to day, yes, I do have my own purpose,
mm,
which is staying alive. But what's beyond that? Is it just
yeah,
staying alive for what? Just to live? We
mm,
live just to live. That to me doesn't sit right. So that's
Yes.
why I was asking, like, if you could respond to that
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
philosopher.
Yeah. Okay. So that is a very, very good question. So there is a distinction of this is the word I was looking for. The word is ultimate meaning.
Mm.
Ultimate meaning. So there is two kind of meanings. There is we can achieve meaning personally. So the only thing meaning requires is consciousness. Okay, so because we are conscious beings, we can make our own meaning. In other words, what is exactly meaning? Meaning is, in a sense, computing something and then having a sentiment. Maybe that's kind of I don't know, simplified explanation, but more or less, someone can say that this might be meaning, like having some kind of thought and a sentiment. Okay, some kind of mental process and a sentiment. So in that sense, the only thing meaning requires and purpose requires is consciousness. Now, when you say the universe, whe- when you say that, d- do we have ultimate meaning? That implies some kind of consciousness from the divine. Okay, so
Not necessarily from a divine, but something beyond our human existence on planet Earth.
yes, this is a good point to ponder about, because when I think of meaning, I cannot imagine meaning without consciousness. So when you say that there is some kind of ultimate meaning, that means that there is a consciousness that governs the universe.
Consciousness to me just simply means the experiencing of what it is to be whatever you are, like to
Yeah.
be experiencing it. But I think whatever kind of motivates this universe or reality could really be anything. It obviously it probably is linked. Something is linked to do with consciousness, but
Yeah.
overall, I'm not sure if consciousness would even be fundamental to that base reality.
Mm.
That's or is it just fundamental to things that are alive in the way that we're alive?
This type of arguments are meant like to prove that God exists. And they say, for example, that if God doesn't exist, there is no meaning or purpose in life. And we necessarily, that leads us to things like nihilism.
Nihilism, yeah.
Nihilism, sorry,
Yeah. No, it's
my,
okay.
yes. So what I'm trying to say is that I usually hear these arguments from theists, and they say
Okay.
exactly they formulate the argument exactly as I just said, like, if there is no God, there cannot be meaning in life or true purpose in life. Okay, but here I will qualify and I say I agree that without God it might not you might not have an ultimate purpose or meaning in life, but you can still have, you make your own meaning. And in a sense, making your own meaning, it might be the only true meaning and purpose. Because if you think, if God arbiters or assigns meaning, it's more like function. He is giving us some kind of function. Like we are, I don't know, like we say, I have this tool and its function is to do certain things. The same way God says, I made humans for this kind of purpose. So is it really purpose or is it maybe function or something like that? So what
Mm.
I'm trying to say, okay, so what I'm trying to say is that in my estimation, um, true meaning and purpose, it can only be personal. This is what what I believe, that true meaning can only be personal.
But doesn't it mean I see what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying, but at the same time, the reason I say it leads like individual purpose leads to nihilism because what is the point of living if this is all there is? Like, it doesn't amount to anything. And I'm not saying no one should live, I'm just saying hypothetically, if
Yeah.
this doesn't amount to anything, like, what is the point of it? Because it doesn't amount to anything at the end of the day.
No, I cannot understand this logic because the duration doesn't uh, entail value. So value is not equivalent with a duration. For example, if something is not eternal, that doesn't mean it's not valuable. It's not necessarily. So
Doesn't have to
I
be eternal, but it just means that, like, let's just say we eat to stay
yeah,
alive. Yeah? We don't
yeah,
just eat because it tastes good. There's a
yes,
reason behind it. Everything we do is connected to some other reason.
yes,
So now when we're talking about our lives and
yeah,
saying that there is actually no reason, it's just we're here by happenstance, that's when I
yeah.
kind of go, but then what are
Okay,
we doing?
okay. So again, it's a matter of qualifying things. Okay, so let me give you a question that I know. Okay, how a car is made, the how a car is made. That doesn't mean it cannot take us to places. In other words, just because uh, we are made by natural processes, that doesn't mean that after we evolved consciousness, that doesn't mean um, meaning and purpose is not real in a sense. So this is a rationalization that I don't find ironically meaningful myself. And you can do that kind of rationalization to everything. For example, I can continue this type of thinking, and I can tell you, so what if God made humans? Okay, so this kind of nihilistic mindset is more like a mental, a psychological state, and a kind of mental exercise, not so much a meaningful thing or question. Okay, so it's more like a mental exercise, or how can I explain? So you can do that the same nihilistic kind of process to everything. For example, I can continue and say, even if there is, uh, if God exists, so what? And even if real meaning exists, so what? You see, I can continue this kind of
But
nihilistic.
then when you actually remove the nihilism and you would say, like, okay, there's potentially a bigger purpose, because logically
Mhm.
we follow what we see logically on earth, and we don't see anything really that's just there for the sake of it. Everything seems to be connected in one way or another. Maybe you could say, okay, it's just happened to evolve that way, but even then you have to ask, well, why? It could have gone the other way, but life evolved to want to continue. When you, like, what I always say is, there's like the whole point of, there's no real purpose in life, there's no higher purpose. Actually, I don't see any evidence of that. It doesn't logically follow from anything. Like, I guess you'd say there's no empirical evidence for that. And also, if you bring not necessarily God, but a higher kind of, maybe a different reality, new dimensions, different possibilities open up. So, like, the reason life exists and why we're here could be beyond our understanding right now. But to say there is no purpose, to me, like, it's just like closing the door. Whereas if you kind of say, well, we might not understand our purpose, opens the doors to other possibilities.
Although the way we get to consciousness might be natural processes that are random, they are not really random. They are guided by evolution, but they don't have some meaningful hindsight, okay, or some purposeful hindsight. Okay, that is the mechanism. But at some point, this blind mechanism led to consciousness. Okay, and from the moment we have consciousness, then meaning and purpose becomes. Okay, so now all these blind processes that led to consciousness, that doesn't mean that undermine the value of consciousness. And the analogy I give is that just because just because we know the mechanics of a car, how a car was made, that doesn't mean it cannot take us to places. So just because I know that a car, has an engine, some wheels, and some other things, that doesn't mean we can not go and talk about philosophy. This is what I'm trying to say, or talk about meaningful stuff. So this is the distinction I make. So just because the natural forces that led to consciousness were blind, that doesn't mean consciousness is blind. You are referring to the human condition in this world.
Mm.
That okay, so uh, that because of our intellect, we kind of separated ourselves from nature, and
Hmm.
that makes us, in a sense, lonely in the universe.
Well,
So
the known universe, because
yeah, or the cosmos, or yes. Okay, so but the point is that what you were describing is okay. So in I like to believe, although I cannot possibly know, okay, that an animal, because it doesn't have this advanced intellect, and it doesn't have the fear of death and all these kind of things.
Mhm.
It hasn't got the conscious, this advanced conscious state we have. It's more connected to nature, like you just
Yeah,
described. Okay,
yeah,
and that gives him a kind of, I don't know, warm feeling. When we are drunk or something like that, we might have this because we don't think, and we let
yeah. Our
you
thoughts are
know
slowed down. Yeah, exactly,
yes, but
exactly.
not just the thinking process, because we let ourselves, we don't have all this anxiety of
Yeah.
the everyday life. Okay,
Mhm.
then we connect more to with nature, in a sense.
We're
And
more in the moment, basically. We're
yeah,
more,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe my analogy is not that
No, no, it
that
was a
good.
good analogy.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, this is my point. So, like, when we make assertions like there's no God, there's no purpose, I think that's our human mind rationalizing things from
Mm.
a place which it doesn't actually have the entire knowledge to even come to that conclusion. It's just our human perspective on life.
Yeah, but uh, when we are doing this kind of thoughts, this I think this kind of thoughts are related to our psychology.
Mm.
Okay, okay. So that's why I said the nihilism is more like a psychological state. It's not really a rational conclusion.
No, I think
Or-
it
or-
is. I
yeah,
think it's the rational conclusion of atheism, actually. I
yes,
think
but
nihilism is.
okay. Yeah. Accusation of nihilism is like it's like people are feeling depressed. Okay, this is what they imply. They imply that if you don't have God or a religion, you kind of feel depressed because that
Well,
leads you
I
to
wouldn't say
like
all nihilists are depressed. Some of not they're not. Some are quite happy in nihilism. They find peace in the fact that there's no
oh,
point to any
then
of this. So it's not always a depressive thing.
okay. So I'm yes, but I'm responding to this kind of accusation. In other words, that atheism leads to depression. This
Oh, I
type of
see.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes. Okay. So if we are to analyze nihilism like just as a claim, philosophical claim, then we need to see the definition, the exact definition. And I believe is that the definition of nihilism is that without God, there is no purpose or value in life, something like that.
Right.
Perhaps we can check the definition, but I
Okay.
think it's something like that.
I'll let you check the definition then.
Yes, philosophy nihilism is any viewpoint or a family of views that rejects generally accepted or fundamental aspects of human existence, namely knowledge, morality, or meaning. There have been different nihilist positions, including that human values are baseless, that life is meaningless, that knowledge is impossible, or that some other highly regarded concepts are in fact meaningless or pointless. Okay, so that is the claim. Uh, this claim is in fact not so hard to counter against because without God, you don't have an ultimate meaning or some kind of an ultimate purpose uh, or absolute knowledge or absolute morality. Okay, so you see what? So this plain definition of nihilism is very easy to refute, in fact, because the only thing atheism cannot achieve is the things this definition describes, but in their ultimate form. Okay, so if that is the definition of nihilism, I I don't agree that atheism leads to nihilism because in an atheist worldview you can still have meaning even if you don't have ultimate meaning. You can still have an objective moral standard, even if objective morality, even if you don't have absolute morality. You can still have knowledge, even if you don't have an absolute knowledge. So, in that sense, the more we know how things work, the less scary they become. And I always give the analogy of a balloon. So imagine yourself in a balloon, and the more you know, the higher the balloon goes.
Mm-hmm.
And the higher you go, then the things down seems smaller and more simpler. So if you are in a plane, there is a very sweet Greek song about this. So it says it's a troubled man, and he says when you look things from above, everything seems simple. People look like ants and nobody can hurt you, something like that. So this is the point. So the more you know, the more you see, you understand how nature works, and things look less scary.
But
So
the
in
thing
that
is,
sense,
I could argue that the more you know, the less you know.
the more you know, the less you know. Yeah, okay, so that's another philosophical
Because in my experience, the
mm,
more I've studied, I've come to realize that I our knowledge of reality is really limited.
of course.
Whereas, yeah, and I've and in learning about certain other things, you come to realize that wow, we don't know much at all.
Mm. You hinder upon a quote of Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher,
Oh,
who
okay.
said, who said, I am wise because I know that I don't know,
Yeah,
that I don't know
exactly.
things. Okay,
That's my line of thinking. Like,
just
from your point of view as an
mm,
atheist, how do you find the will to carry on?
yeah, because okay, so be, okay, the secret to answer these questions is in the word well-being. So it's in the word well-being. Well-being is answering the question how we ought to live. So what you are hinging about is um, this question, why we ought to do certain things. Okay, so this is the, and it's a really interesting question. Okay, so you my answer to that is that without an ultimate consciousness, without God, we don't owe to do anything in an absolute sense. Okay, so um, for example, if the universe is not conscious in its in its oversighting or overlapping way, then you don't owe to do anything in an absolute sense. From the moment we evolve consciousness, okay, so we ought to do things for our fellow humans and our own self. We ought to do things for well-being. That the point which is significant is, okay, you might like to do something. Okay, that is the question
But it
that
still
we
doesn't
need to investigate.
like for me it still doesn't solve because I see
Mm,
I
yeah.
see suffering all around. Yeah, I see people who really go through some awful, awful stuff. And to think that they have to go through that for no reason just because
Mm.
they're alive doesn't sit right with me.
People who suffer might make them better people in this
But it doesn't
process.
amount to anything. It doesn't amount to anything for that person. They have to go through a lifetime of suffering just to die in like let's say like people who like when someone loses a family member or they pass away, that hope that you might see them again is so powerful in healing a person rather than
Yeah,
just telling them, well, that's it, it's over forever. It's such a horrible thought. And it doesn't feel right. It's like, I don't know, these connections we make are so deep that you don't want to lose that person forever.
yeah, of course. Life includes, yes, all this kind of things. Life is tough, okay? No, nobody denies that. But okay, so although we cannot change in a large extent the outside world, so we are born in our circumstance. What we can do is look inwards and try to change ourselves, know ourselves first of all, start knowing ourselves, and change how we react on things. So the only thing that is solid or constant is ourselves. So Elemu, you imagine you in any given circumstance of this world. Let's say you are very poor, you are very rich, you were born in Gaza, and
Oh
but
God.
it's certain that we don't owe to not suffer. Okay, how we ought to be is not happy, is having well-being. Some might say how we ought to be is virtuous. That doesn't mean that doesn't equal happy. So even if you suffer a little more, not you personally, but whoever, even if someone suffers, that doesn't mean he doesn't achieve well-being.
But you remember I've said to you before, like, let's imagine a psychopath or
Yeah,
somebody with very low empathy. They want to hurt someone for their own fun, for their sadistic pleasure.
yeah,
From an atheistic point of view, how do you convince that person
yeah,
to not do it? Because you're talking about well-being and all these things, but that person with it might like from what it looks like to me, without any kind of outside source of
yeah,
morality, that person will tell you, but this is what feels good to me. Why should I care about the person I steal from, about the person I hurt? Why should I care about them? How are you going to convince them that what they're doing is wrong? Because they're just going to say, yeah, but I feel good doing this.
So that is his, so that will bring that will lead to a bad life for himself and for others.
But he doesn't care because of, like, when you say others, there are some people who don't care about other people. They don't. And in a way, if you don't have any outside higher purpose, how can you even say they're wrong? They're just filling their evolutionary role.
Because
They
okay,
were just
so
born to be evil and they're just doing who they are.
for example, if you were asking me why I am taller than you, perhaps I don't know, I haven't seen you in real life, but if you ask me why I'm objectively taller than you, I will say, look, the metric, the investigative subject is height. Let's take a ruler, and I'm objectively closer to this scale. Okay. When we are talking about good and bad, what we are investigating is morality. So the investigative subject is morality. So in order to be able to investigate this subject, we need, first of all, we need to give a definition of morality. Okay, so it's not about the metric, it's about the definition. So you imply that your definition of morality that includes God, for example, your definition of morality might be that God gives morality. Okay, this definition is true, but I can argue the true definition of morality is reducing unnecessary suffering and promoting well-being. If my is the true definition of morality, then now we have the investigative subject. Okay, reducing unnecessary suffering and promoting well-being. Can this be can this be objective? And I will say yes, because suffering in is although we cannot uh, quantify exactly, is still quantifiable. Okay, so we can recognize suffering, and we can again investigate well-being. Okay, what is the true definition of well-being and all these kind of things. So it's kind of complicated, but there is some objectivity. Okay, we can. Yeah, no, I know. I haven't convinced you yet, but it's
No,
yeah.
I just want to keep my mind as open as possible to
Oh,
all possibilities. But God
yeah,
is something I think that is a way of humans trying to understand reality. It's not the same as a flying spaghetti monster. It's our attempt at understanding something that right now seems to be beyond our understanding.
yeah. You are right that there is a distinction between those
Yeah.
two. The one is a clearly mythical fragment of our imagination. The other
Yeah,
thing, yeah,
like a I don't know what else, like a pony, I don't know. Uh
yeah,
My Little Pony with flying what are
a
they even
comic character. I
Yeah, yeah, Harry
like
Potter. We know
Harry
Harry
Potter.
Potter is a fictional character, exactly.
Yeah,
We know he's
Lo-
not real. Well, maybe he's real, I don't know, but as far as we
no,
know, he's
oh,
made.
yes. So God. Okay, the thing with God is that because it's a very fundamental question. So
Yes.
what made this? So we all can see that we are in a universe. Okay.
Mhm,
So what made this universe? So because God is a very fundamental question, it's not really in the same category like the fictional characters.
mhm.
Okay. Okay. So it's a valid assumption. It's a rational assumption.
I mean,
Okay.
it's yeah, exactly. I think there's a definite difference between mythical creatures or stories that we tell children and the
Yeah.
concept of God, because I've said to you before, like, to even define God for me is really difficult because what is God? It's really hard to actually say.
Yeah. Of
Yes,
course.
like I can, if you say the God of the Bible or God of Islam, then I know what you're talking about. But if you just say God, it's like, how do we break that down? So what part do I deny? What part do I not believe in?
Yes, of course, it's and that is one of the most things that people need to do before they ask other people to prove or disprove something. Okay, they need to
Mhm.
define what they mean by God,
Absolutely.
and that is
Absolutely.
yeah, that is one of the main reasons why it's difficult to disprove a specific God.
And because for me, God is linked to ultimate reality or base reality, it becomes very hard to even to try and even describe what God could be, because we actually don't understand what
Mm.
truly what kind of universe we're living in.
He created the universe. He's all good. He's all powerful. All these kind of things. Maybe we can.
I still think that's a Abrahamic interpretation of God,
Mm, mm,
because in the
yeah.
Eastern philosophies they don't really have that same concept of God as like the Christian, Islamic, Jewish faith does.
Mm,
And even maybe the pagan religions of Europe. There's
yeah.
like, let's just take Islam for example. That is, when they describe God in Islam, it's almost like they're describing a human. It's
Yeah.
such
Exactly.
a
So,
God,
so
yeah.
in that sense, I might excuse people like Richard Dawkins, or like
Yeah,
I might
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
so I like now to defend my master, Richard Dawkins.
Oh, you're
So
God.
no.
You're
What I'm trying
perfect.
to say is that when atheists used to say about the flying spaghetti monster and fairies and pixies and so on, they were not r- really referring to the day's concept of
Yeah,
God. I-
yeah,
They were more referring to these silly myths like you sometimes see in religions like Islam and
yeah. I
even
think,
Christianity. There
yeah,
are certain which are like silly myths, which are relevant or analogous to the I don't know to the spaghetti monster. They are analogous. Some stories in Islam, especially, they are so silly that they are analogous to Lord of the Rings.
let's be honest. I always say to people, we should be like AI. We should take every piece of information available to us that we can access, because obviously,
Mm.
humans are limited, and then come to a conclusion based on everything we can access.
Yeah,
We
of
should
course, that
never
would be useful.
exactly, we should, and that's a true scientific method. We shouldn't just focus in on one thing and say, oh, gods are silly, or blah, blah, blah. No, you should be looking at
Mm.
all pieces of evidence you can and coming to a conclusion that way.
Obviously, the God question is a very serious question and very valuable and important question. Certainly, that's certain because it's very fundamental. Okay, that's the reason.
Absolutely. That's what I said
Yes.
to you as well. I said, to ask what is God, you could translate it into what is reality.
Yeah, of course, certainly,
Really?
yes. So
Yeah.
yeah, in in reality, in reality, you are asking what is the fundamental, what is fundamental reality. So
Hmm.
is it consciousness fundamental reality and give birth to the natural world, or is on the other side that
Hmm.
first we have the natural world and then we have consciousness. So this is the difference
No,
that
I
we need.
definitely agree with what you're saying, though. So, and I think I've made that distinction before in the past, where I've said it's important to distinguish between a God, a specific God, like let's just say
Mm,
Allah, the God of
yeah,
Islam, which we can, because they give so much information about who He is, we
yeah,
can refute that or we can
of course.
disprove it, because we know that. mm, I mean, and like we were saying earlier about unicorns breathing glitter and Harry Potter, the kind of way Islam presents itself is much more similar to a fictional, fabricated story. And we can even bring in human psychology and human behavior to look at Muhammad's character
Yeah,
and analyze his character. We can even use that as evidence to say it was likely that he
yeah,
was using this to gain power. That's justified in that case.
yeah, of
But
course, yes.
Yeah, but the very non-specific God, that's a whole different game because it could really be anything. It's extremely hard to deny it.
Yeah, but at least in order to be qualified as God, there must be certain thing that he must possess. For example, he must be conscious. I don't know. Sometimes you disagree with that. That the obviously God must be conscious. Isn't that right?
No.
No, again. so, so we have talked about this another time. So that's why I remember.
Yeah. The thing is though, okay, so in my understanding, so when we use words in language,
Yeah.
we're referring to a term. So when I say God, I'm referring to the sustainer of reality, but I'm not referring to any specific God. So when it comes to, oh, he has to be conscious, he has to be eternal, actually, I don't say that. I just say he is that which keeps everything going. So
Yeah, but
whatever qualities are possessed within the universe, he created it or he also has that. So my definition is wide open. Mine is wide open. God could be a number for all I know. He could just be the number 0 or number 1. I don't know.
there is purpose and meaning to this universe. This is what we are trying to say. We need to find another word to describe this
No,
thing.
I looked up the word God because you see in language terms are agreed upon by our understanding. And I have actually realized that you can reduce God to to a being or to an entity that sustains existence, and that's my definition of God. And I think people, but this is the interesting word about God. Maybe not in Greek, I don't know about Greek, but in English, God really can encompass pretty much anything. That's the interesting
Mm.
thing about the word God.
Yeah, I don't quite agree with that because I think God is a very specific word that implies consciousness. But what I suspect that what you are trying to say is, which is very thoughtful and very significant, is that what is I see some kind of purpose and meaning in this universe. So it's not so there must be some kind of essence that provides this
No, no, no. I
perfect.
don't see purpose and meaning. I see an outside source that keeps everything going.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
purpose and meaning. That means that because the kind of materialist view of the universe of there's just atoms and matter floating around and they just bump into each other and create planets and create stars. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is something outside of reality sustaining it, holding it all together
Oh,
with an intent of existence, keep existence going, however that may appear. That's my definition of God.
yes.
Sustainer.
An unmoved mover. This is what you
I
describe.
guess so. I guess so. Yeah, yeah. That's
An
Aquinas, right?
unmoved mover.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I do,
but
yeah, but
no, please.
no,
Tell
no,
me.
it's
Yes, yes,
fine.
yes.
It's only because that sustainer of life could be anything, and I think I do believe it is way more complicated than we could not understand it right now, even if it came to us. I don't
Mm.
think we could understand, not with our human mind. But there's an aspect of that sustainer in us. We
Yeah.
have some
Okay.
of its essence alive in us through life and whatever. But what that thing is a mystery to me, and I don't even
Uh,
try to understand it.
how can you make the distinction of this thing being a god and not some kind of natural mechanism or natural entity? You see what I'm trying to say? That
Because we've not
okay.
found any, because as I said earlier, everything in life points towards sus- being sustained,
Oh,
uh, not just for the sake of being sustained, but there's a motivation for things to come into
oh,
existence.
exactly. Yes, yes. So that is what I suspected. Yes, that you notice this type of purpose in universe, this type of motivation of, and you name the original thing that brings this kind of order, this kind of orderly universe, which meaning exists, with purpose exists, this kind of let's say divine prudence, these kind of things. You suspect the initial essence should be that sustain all this. You name God, although it might not be conscious in a sense. Okay, so that is your definition. Yeah, and I see how where you came from, where you are coming from. Yes, yes,
I believe existence is a necessary aspect of our reality. And I
it
think
must
the
be.
word, yes, I think the word existence itself almost holds weight to like, I can't really describe it. I can see it in my mind, but it's really hard to put it into words. So, like, existence is existence, if that makes sense. And
Mm,
from that, all things are made and born,
mm.
but things have to exist because
Yeah.
that's
Okay. So
what they
yeah,
do.
yeah. What you are doing now is this is the right way to go. Is you have this kind of intuition, this kind of feeling, this kind of so your emotional quality drives your intellect, and this is how it should go. So okay, so first you feel something, and then you are trying to put in words what you are sus- uh,
No,
your
because
intuition and your
it's logic actually, because have you ever done a puzzle?
yes, yes.
Have you ever got the wrong piece of a puzzle and you try to push it in and it doesn't fit no matter
Ah,
how
it doesn't
hard
fit.
you
Yes.
try?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Or there's a piece missing. And then once you get the right piece, the picture comes together.
Oh, yes. That's
That's
that's a
like
powerful. Yes.
that's how I see we don't have the right pieces of
The
a puzzle
all the
just yet.
pieces to have the complete picture. Yes, you are
Exactly.
right about that. Yes.
At this point in time, maybe because of AI and future developments, I don't know. But right now in time, it's almost as if we just don't have those right pieces. So
Mm.
things don't make sense because we're putting the wrong things together in the wrong place. Maybe
Yeah,
one
of
day,
course. Yes.
yeah,
Mm.
one day in time, maybe we'll have the right order and we'll put it all together and then the picture will make sense, maybe. But right now, logically, the logical conclusion is we don't have the right, either we don't have the right pieces or we're not putting them in the right way because the grander picture doesn't make sense to anyone. There's way
Yeah.
too many questions for everyone.
I might say it's almost certain that if you had a complete knowledge, your view of reality would have been completely different, and your convictions and all these kind of things.
Absolutely, but that's
Yeah.
how I see reality as well. I just think right now, and there are probably an infinite amount of puzzle pieces all jumbled up. And maybe the
Mm.
point of life is to put them all back together again and get the right picture.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Socrates, who is the cave analogy Plato, yeah?
Oh yes, it's the this depiction that yes that you just described this concept.
Is it the puppets on the wall that they think are
Yeah.
reality?
Okay. So I don't remember the exacts, but the concept is yes, it's simple. That
What was the
y-
story? It's puppets on the wall, right? And you live in the cave.
so someone sees certain things, and he imagine in some cave he sees just like shadows. Okay,
Mm,
and he imagines things.
mm-hmm.
But when he goes out in the real world, out of the cave, he sees that reality might be completely different from what he imagined,
Yeah,
from this limited information
yeah,
he
yeah,
had. So in that sense, so you hinder upon a very good point before. You said, okay, so that's the point. So if we don't have the complete information, obviously our perception of reality might be completely problematic, and that is a strong point of the value of the investigating the world, because
yeah,
many people claim that just logic might give us truth, which
No,
is
but like in Plato's
yeah,
analogy, he had to go outside the cave to zoom out,
yeah,
find more knowledge. But the question now people are asking, well, who is the one controlling the shadows? Who was holding the
yeah.
puppets? That's a
Who
whole new topic.
or what is the fundamental reality? Okay, so we will be able to transform our consciousness into the machine.
I
No,
don't want to. I
you
don't
don't
want to.
want to.
I don't trust the governments. I want my consciousness to be out of human hands.
You don't trust the God.
I don't.
Yes.
I don't. I don't trust human beings. Right now, my consciousness is free and it belongs to the earth or the universe. Imagine if they could take our consciousness, what the hell would they do with it?
No, no. It supposedly will still be you, but you won't need your body. Your consciousness will be because. Have you seen the movie Lucy? I believe.
Yeah, I watched that on the plane actually, funny
Okay,
enough.
this is what happened. I think in this movie.
Yeah,
Her,
yeah, no, she took that weird blue stuff and it
yeah,
made her
was that the
expand
movie
its
or
mind.
was? Oh, no, no, it's another movie I've seen,
Mm.
which is kind of similar. Where that is exactly what happened. So there was this scientist, and he was able to transform his consciousness into the computer, and then he was like controlling all the things related with kind of movies are interesting because it makes you imagine philosophical
They're like a thought
questions.
experiment. Yeah, they're a thought
Yes, thought
experiment. Yeah,
experiments as well.
yeah, yeah. So I think this was a really insightful conversation from your perspective as an atheist. Can I call you an atheist?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
certainly.
As an atheist and as a philosopher, it was really an insightful conversation. And like you said, a good thought experiment to come up with, different conclusions about these questions and these important life questions.
Yeah, obviously we are trying. Okay, it's the process what matters.
Exactly,
So
exactly,
yes, so
exactly.
yeah, that's why I make a distinction, not atheists against theists, but more
Mhm.
like skeptics against dogmatists. So I put you in my camp,
Oh,
in the camp of skeptics.
yeah,
So I think
I don't
yeah,
know if I call myself a skeptic because I feel like skeptics by nature, they kind of critique everything and they always look for the
mm,
alternative opinion. I think I'm just someone who tries my hardest to not fall. I mean, it's impossible because we're human. We all have biases, but
mm.
with so much information, there's just so much out there to sort of think about and
More
ponder on.
like a rationalist. Then
No, I
that's a
wouldn't.
good compromise. Not even that.
No,
Bright. How about the term bright?
no,
Like,
no. I'd say I've
Mm.
said it before. So you have your emotional mind and your rational mind, and in between is the wise mind. So
Oh,
that's what I try to do. I
oh,
try
that's really interesting.
because if you just either purely emotional or purely rational, that's black and white thinking. And the best decision is in the middle, or the
Yeah,
wise decision is
yeah,
in the middle. Yeah, to
of
bring
course,
the two concepts together.
yeah.
But obviously not all the time because we've spoken about, like in maths and that kind of realm. That's
Y-
pure logic. That's
Yeah, but I will say most of the time because it's very rare to be kind of a dichotomy, and the
absolutely,
truth is on one side. The truth
absolutely,
is, yeah, that's why it's so difficult because it's the truth is more in the middle somewhere, and you need
absolutely,
analytical, yes,
exactly.
competence or ability to be able to find the
That's
truth.
it. I mean, we say in English, there nothing is black and white. There are shades of grey,
Yeah, of course. Yes, yes,
which
that
is
makes
quite a
sense.
depressing. That's such a British statement because instead of saying there's a spectrum of color, we say there's shades of grey. How
Yes.
British of us.
Yes, that is very funny. You could have chosen any color of the rainbow,
I
and you
know,
chose gray. Yeah.
which is our overcast. But to be fair, we
Mm.
do have different shades of grey in the sky.
Oh, yes. So that might be, accurate of some description.
Yeah, yeah. Like on
Yeah.
an overcast day here, you'll have dark grey, light grey, and then you say, "Oh, there's a hole in the sky. I can see a little bit of blue."
Ah, yes.
You
So
might
it's
get
a
mixed up.
description of the sky, something like that. Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for
Yes.
giving me some insight and some philosophical advice and
And
education.
I never forget. I'm like an elephant. In this stuff. I owe you one explanation. I owe you the explanation of why we ought things.
Oh yeah, please give me that.
I had in the past I have answered these questions somehow. I don't know whether it was efficient,
Right.
but
I'm
it
sure it was.
at this point it didn't compute to me very nice.
Anyway,
Mm,
until next time, if for everyone who watched, thank you so much for watching,
thank
and
you.
I wish everyone the best.